This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. Don't miss a moment on or off the field. Make every day a highlight with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIKs.
That'd be awesome. He's great. He's ginormous, and so yeah, I'm excited. He's gonna bring it, and I'm gonna bring it. So it'll be a good matchup and go head to head, and tighten up the jaw strap or the chin strap and jaw strap maybe, but hey.
Better than strapping into something else. Welcome in Eddie Radosevich, George Stoy here from the Soonerscoop.com studios. A game day preview ahead. OU Alabama coming up on Saturday at 2:30. We caught up with our good buddy Nick Kelly from AL.com to talk about the Crimson Tide. Fifth year, is that what he said? Fifth year covering the Tide?
Yeah, and he covered Missouri before that, so
sure,
he's been around the block.
He knows a thing or two about the SEC. Always good to catch up with him, and it's about that time. Obviously, everything is out there. We recorded the unofficial 40 on Wednesday with Kerry Murdoch and Josh McCuistion, and certainly opportunity aplenty for Oklahoma headed into Saturday.
Yeah, we kind of said it all week that this is a game that you were hoping before the season would mean something. Certainly means something. Oklahoma, if they can go win on the road against a really good Alabama team, one of the best teams in the country, in my opinion, a team that could possibly win the national title. If you can go win this game, you've put yourself in position to make the college football playoff. So a lot on the line, and same for Alabama. If they can win this game, they're virtually in the SEC championship and the college football playoff. So this is a big-time football game between two of the best programs in all of college football.
We talked about the confidence with this team, certainly coming out of Neyland. How could you not be confident with your ability to go on the road? This one's maybe a little bit of a different animal. I don't know if there's going to be anything that's going to be comparable to what Oklahoma saw from a atmosphere standpoint. It can only get so loud, right?
Yeah.
But certainly I think that there is some type of mystique, at least for me, going into this, Alabama, Bryant-Denny Stadium, a place that they just don't lose very often.
Yeah, and you've heard before that it's a good atmosphere, maybe not a great one compared to some of the places like Death Valley at LSU or Tennessee at Neyland, but it's going to be rocking. And, I think that there's a lot of momentum for the Crimson Tide. We talked about it with Nick, and you'll hear that interview here shortly. But they've kind of been rolling since they lost to Florida State, and they've won a lot of close games. I think I saw somebody put out there earlier today that Alabama has won 6 games against top 40 teams in certain metrics. Oklahoma's won 4. So 2 teams that have played some really good teams, and obviously Alabama's won a ton against ranked opponents and some close games.
I think it was the Bear that threw that out there.
Bear, it was.
Alabama has 6 wins against the top 40 in the Sadrian ratings. Georgia, Texas A&M with 5, and then there is a fivesome of teams with 4 wins. That is Indiana, Miami, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt. So certainly got a big test coming up. Brent Venables met with the media as well as Ben Arbuckle. You can watch both those press conferences here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel. But we'll start with Brent, just kind of his overall thoughts on Alabama going into Saturday.
Going to be a fantastic matchup with 2 of the iconic brands in college football history. I think Oklahoma and Alabama ranked first and second since World War II in total wins, and maybe are tied for the most 11-win seasons in college football history. So Alabama's got a fantastic football team. They're undefeated at home. 8 straight wins for them since an opening game loss to Florida State. And I think they have the longest home winning streak in the country at 17 wins. Their averaging win margin is 40-11, and their wins at home. And they got a really good roster. They're playing really well on both sides of the ball. Their defense leads the SEC in turnovers caused and turnover margin. And offensively, they've been just incredibly efficient. The quarterback's only thrown 1 interception. This is his 4th year, really experienced, incredibly savvy, very accurate, just under 70% completion percentage. He's got a ton of touchdown to interception ratio. I think he's got something like 17 touchdowns and just been really fantastic. The skills as good as we'll see all year. Got a really good offensive line, incredibly physical, and then again defensively, they're really aggressive, super well coached in all three phases. Going to be a great challenge, but something I know our guys are looking forward to.
Let's start there. Oklahoma defensively against Alabama. It's been well documented, I think, and it's a little bit in a language like we told Nick that we have spoke before with offensive problems just in terms of being able to run the football. The good thing for them is Ty Simpson's been fantastic. There's a reason why he's most likely going to be headed to New York City at the end of the season to the Heisman Trophy, possibly winning the Heisman Trophy. Mm-hmm. He's had a fantastic year. Coach's kid, checks all of the boxes when you're talking about like cliche lines of a coach's kid. Obviously, his dad, the head coach at Tennessee, Martin. Ty Simpson's been phenomenal and another unbelievable test for OU defensively.
Yeah, I think he's been one of the two best quarterbacks in the country, the other being Indiana's Mendoza. He's been spectacular for them, but Ty's right there. And I think what makes him really good, Eddie, is he's extremely accurate and he's not afraid to hang in the pocket. And they've done a pretty good job protecting him, but he's not afraid to hang in there and deliver some passes down the field. But I think he's really good at reading defenses. He understands what Ryan Grubb is asking him to do, their offensive coordinator, who, obviously was very good a couple of years ago with Michael Penix, who's now in the NFL. Grubb spent 1 year last year with the Seahawks. Didn't work out in the NFL level, but in college, he runs a very quarterback-friendly system, and I think that's helped Ty Simpson, who, like I said, I think is extremely talented, throws a very accurate football, and has some awesome receivers around him that probably make his job a little easier too.
Playmakers aplenty at the skill position for Oklahoma. You would think that Gentry Williams is going to be back in some form or fashion. Yeah. Obviously, Cortland Guillory, Eli Bowen, we've talked about Jacoby Johnson. That group's been good, and I think somewhat they passed the test 2 weeks ago in Knoxville against another really talented wide receiver group.
Yeah, and they'd probably tell you that they should have had a few more plays in that game. You think of some of the missed tackles, or the one I think it was in the second half that Guillory and Peyton Bowen kind of collided and missed that tackle. That stuff can't happen. Alabama will make you pay just like Tennessee did. But overall, yeah, I think I saw the stat the other day. Cortland Guillory's like fourth in the SEC in most pass breakups or something like that. Like, he's been really phenomenal. Sure. And he's drawn a lot of these big matchups. I'm curious, how do they guard Ryan Williams? How do they guard Bernard? Do they match him up and have a Gentry Williams or Eli Bowen or Cortland Guillory kind of shadow one of those guys, or does it really matter? What kind of coverages does Brent Venables go after him, and try to confuse Ty Simpson? Do you bring extra pressure? All of those things. I think it's a very, very interesting matchup for Brent Venables going up against this Alabama offense.
Let's skip back to Monday night as well as Monday afternoon here from Brent Venables and Ben Arbuckle talking Ty Simpson, as well as a number of Oklahoma defenders about the challenge of Alabama offensively.
Well, he's a coach's kid. His dad's a college football coach, and so he's been around the game, and so he's got good instincts for it. Again, well-versed in what they're trying to do, and then understanding what he's seeing. But he's got great maturity, really good decision-making, very decisive. He's got great arm talent, and again, keeps him out of bad plays. You go back and again, their turnover margin, they lead the SEC in turnover margin, and that there's not a stat that's more important than that. And taking care of the football, making good decisions, not putting them in harm's way is the job of the quarterback. And when you've got good players, you've got good coaches, and you take care of the ball, good things, will happen. I think since 23, when we've won the turnover margin, I think we're 16-0. And so that's just, that's something that they've done at a really high level. I think a year ago, I don't know where exactly they ranked a year ago at this time, but it wasn't. They're not in the same place from a taking care of a ball standpoint.
They're very explosive. They're very good at not turning the ball over, taking care of the ball. Very efficient. So we just got to be in our P's and Q's. Got to get our eyes in the right place. Got to be able to communicate all over because we playing away, so it's going to be loud. So.
I pretty much watch him every week in crossover film, game planning other teams. He's impressive. He's an impressive passer. I think he does an unbelievable job in the pocket, keeping his eyes downfield and delivering the ball where it needs to go. I've just been impressed watching him as a first-year starter and the calmness and the maturity that he shows, I think he's a really good football player. And I actually know his dad. I know his dad's a really good human, really good ball coach. And so, I mean, from everything I know, he's a great kid, comes from a great family. And I've just been impressed with his maturity and his confidence whenever he steps out there.
Same thing. He gets out of pressure. He's so smart, and he's quick too. He's like sneaky quick, so he can get out, he can run. And so, yeah, we got to do a good job just collapsing the pocket and keeping him in there and force him to make decisions.
He's very efficient. He's very good at making decisions, not turning the ball over, putting the ball where it needs to be. He's very accurate. So, yeah, it's one of the best quarterbacks we're going to play this year. So.
Alabama 4th nationally in turnover margin. Oklahoma would check in that same category, 112th. Obviously, the 3 turnovers in Knoxville were a big part of that game.
You're going to have to do that again. We said going into that Tennessee game, you probably need to win the turnover margin by probably 2, and Oklahoma only won it by 1. Now they should have never thrown the ball there,
sure,
the second one. But I would say the same for Alabama. You're gonna have to win this turnover margin by probably 2 if you want to win if you're Oklahoma.
And both these teams, we'll talk about it a little bit later. We talked about it a little bit with Nick Kelly as well. Both these teams exceptional from an offensive standpoint inside the red zone once they get there and being able to at least get some type of points out of it. On the flip side, Oklahoma offensively versus Alabama defensively, maybe there is some money to be made there. Obviously, this is an Oklahoma team that maybe they found some rhythm offensively, especially in the run game. We've talked about it all week.
Yeah, and you mentioned red zone. If you watched the Alabama-LSU game this past week, LSU moved the ball on Alabama, but they couldn't capitalize. They couldn't get points down there in the red zone and specifically into the end zone. So if Oklahoma's moving the ball on Saturday, they got to get the ball in the end zone. As much as I love Tate Sandell, you don't want him kicking a bunch of field goals if you don't have to.
Especially not more 50-yarders. I know that he's been exceptional.
Right.
The less 50-yard field goals that you have to take, I would advise.
Exactly, and I kind of give the edge to Oklahoma, the special teams battle in this game, but because of Tate Sandell. But back in terms of the offense, I do think OU can find some success against this Alabama defense. They're playing better than they did earlier in the year, but they've given up a lot of rushing yards this year. I think Oklahoma, the way that they've been running the football, they can find some success there. Sounds like John Mateer's getting a little bit healthier. Talked to Brent Venables on the Wednesday teleconference, and he said that John's been really ramping it up. He's increased his velocity.
That was something that we kind of loosely had talked about even coming out of Neyland. I know that Toby Rowland asked John Mateer. We talked about it on the instant reaction after the game. He ran the ball. It was noticeably different.
Yeah, and he was elusive. He looked fast. And so I think quarterback run game is going to be another big part of this game. And I think, again, they can find some success there. But if Oklahoma's going to win, they need to be able to run the football. They're going to have to hit some big plays in the passing game. Can Keontae Lewis get back out there? I'm very interested to see if he can play for Oklahoma. I think that'd be a big boost. And Isaiah Satania, Deion Burks, all those guys are going to need some big games. So I do think Oklahoma can score. But like you said, when they get down there and they get down in the red zone, they have to take advantage.
John Mateer, Ben Arbuckle, as well as Kaden Helms talking about Oklahoma's tasks going into Saturday against Alabama defensively.
Yeah, it's just that we have a belief and a vision of what we want to do, and we're not just coming out here wasting any days and just going through the motions. We know what we're going up against, and it's fun. Like it's SEC football. It's the hardest, this and that, but it's still 11 on 11 each week, So we enjoy it and we embrace it. We don't hide from it. Good. I mean, they cause havoc and they create a lot of turnovers. Their turnover margin is really good, and obviously have a lot of good athletes everywhere, and they fly around and play together. So
they are a talented defensive bunch. I mean, you turn on the film and their speed and physicality and length all over the field, and they do an unbelievable job of trying to make your quarterback feel chaos. And it's an impressive defensive scheme that they run. Coach Womack does a great job. He's done a great job for a really, really long time. But just the way that he, puts his players in position to be successful, how it's a constant chess match, between the offense and the defense, specifically, whenever he's calling the plays for the defense, how it's a great chess match of, he's trying to get into the right call as the other teams are trying to get into the right call. But he does a great job of putting them in position to be successful and use their athletic abilities that will allow them to play free and fast and confident. So that's what stands out to me. They're really talented, really long, really athletic, really physical, cause a lot of chaos, and but that all starts from coach putting them in a position to where they can all use their athletic abilities.
Yeah, it's definitely good. For offense especially, be able to run the ball. I think that's something that's, we've kind of been able to establish more of these past, month or so. It's been really good for the offense, really good for, morale and just, like I said, just overall offense. And the bye week went really good. We had a couple really good practices. Then, obviously got to rest a little bit, get our bodies right. So I think we're in a good spot right now. It builds some confidence, and I still think we have so much that we have to get better at. But it goes back to, what I've said a lot. Whenever you're able to run the football, everything seems to just become not easier, but you stay on schedule more and you're able to be more efficient. But it still ain't good enough. We got to get better. We have to keep on demanding it from our kids, demanding the strain at practice, because it will pay off during games, and we have to keep on improving in that area, because it helps everyone out. It helps the offense out, helps the defense out, helps the special teams out. It helps everyone out. So we just got to keep on getting better at it.
I think the answer is all of them. But if Oklahoma's going to go play well, is there a guy that you really kind of spotlight going into Saturday? Outside of maybe the obvious John Mateer, he has to play well to give Oklahoma an opportunity.
I mean, I think it's Xavier Robinson, and he's played extremely well the last couple of weeks. But I think if you can really get him going and get him in a groove and really lean on him, especially late in that game, then I think you give yourself a really good chance. The other one I would say is in Isaiah Satania. He's been really good for Oklahoma this year. You'd love to see him break loose for a big play, whether it's a passing play or even a punt return. Like that could be a momentum type of play. So those are two guys that I think have kind of Oklahoma's put the ball in their hands a lot lately. I think they're going to continue to do so, and you're going to need them to come up with some big plays.
It was the Alabama game a year ago that kind of really kind of opened the eyes of the country, but Oklahoma fans certainly for Xavier Robinson going over 100 yards against Alabama. Maybe a better defense than last year for the Crimson Tide, but I guess that could be debated either way. All right, before we get to Nick Kelly from AL.com, let us tell you about our good friends over at Game Time. I can't believe that we are getting to the end of the season. All you got to do is get to gametime.co if you want to get some tickets. Gametime.co. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ON3 for $20 off your purchase. Terms do always apply, and redeem that code with the ON3. That is ON letter or the number 3 for $20 off, as we're looking at Gaylord Family, Oklahoma Memorial Stadium, OU, Missouri, just around the corner, coming up a week from Saturday, George. Yeah,
and I love using the Game Time app. You can see here, Carrie's showing you. You can see what exactly your view will be. It's funny, my wife actually just bought tickets for the LSU game, and she did it based on looking at the picture of where
I like that
the view will be. So it's a super easy to use app. Also, any OSU fans out there watching our show, you can get into the OSU Kansas State game this weekend for $30.
That's a little bit more than I would probably be interested in if I was going up to Boone Pickens Stadium to pay for. But nonetheless, use the Game Time app. And I would also say, depending on how the game goes, I don't want to Rose Bowl jinx this thing, but if OU goes and wins, I would imagine those tickets are going to only go up, skyrocket. But Game Time is the place to get them. All you got to do, once again, take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ON3 for $20 off first purchase. Terms always do apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code ON3 for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. And they also have plenty of Oklahoma City Thunder tickets if you want to see the defending world champions. Congratulations, Dallas Mavericks. You're not under the reign of dumbass anymore. I couldn't think of his name. Nico Harrison. All right, let's throw it to our interview with the great Nick Kelly, talking a little bit more Crimson Tide football. Here's our interview with Nick. We now welcome in Nick Kelly, AL.com. I do want to say also, 2024 Alabama Sports Writer of the Year. So we are honored to bring him in today to preview this weekend's game. Obviously a massive one. Oklahoma, Alabama, Bryant-Denny Stadium, 2:30 on Saturday. I know everybody on these sides of the tracks extremely excited. Let's take a step back, though, because I think after week one, everybody basically fired Kalen DeBoer. I think I was one of those people. Since then, it's been Alabama that we've come to know. Ty Simpson's obviously led the charge offensively. Just in terms of Kalen DeBoer, it seems like everything's settled down. Nobody's trying to win the lottery or the mega lotto to pay for a buyout these days with Kalen DeBoer and the Alabama Crimson Tide.
No doubt. It's come a long ways. And before we get too far, guys, I do want to say it's an honor to be in the presence of just a great Big J journalist, as well as George Stoya.
Thank you.
On this show. So,
Nick and I go way back. We used to compete against each other. He was at Missouri, the great Missouri journalism school. Him and Eli Letterman over there.
Oh,
so.
I thought you were going to say the great Eli Drinkwitz.
Oh,
I was about to push back a little bit.
No.
It's I'm excited about this. It certainly seems like Alabama's playing really good football. Obviously, the way that they were able to kind of let LSU hang around and then pull away late on Saturday. It just seems like everything's in a much better spot than it was even all the way back in week one. I know how long ago that was.
Yeah, no doubt. And sorry I got off track there.
No,
but
you're
I
good.
will say no doubt, it really has it's amazing how if you can just stay patient, if you can get through week one, sometimes it's going to work out okay. And Tuscaloosa felt like it was burning down. Like you said, the people trying to figure out ways to buy out Kalen DeBoer in different parts of the state. I think the right people stayed patient, knew it could still work out, could still be fine, and that patience has paid off. And it's been amazing how they have rebounded from that game. But I don't think that they get to this point without that game, frankly, because that game, I think, helps keep them fresh and keeps them in a place where, hey, if you don't play well, if you don't show up this week, that's what can happen. So I think that game was a necessary evil, if you will.
Nick, one of the big reasons why they've been so successful is Ty Simpson. Right now, he's probably my pick for the Heisman Trophy. That's how well he's been playing. I feel like this offense as a whole, though, is a lot different than the offense that came to Norman last year with Jalen Milroe. Obviously, Ryan Grubb comes in. Tell us about this offense and specifically Ty Simpson and that relationship with Ryan Grubb, the success that they've had this year.
It's completely different. I mean, Jalen Milroe, it doesn't take a football elite mind to know that he's a very different quarterback from Ty Simpson. And I think that last year, Kalen DeBoer used what he had. Nick Sheridan, who was the OC, they did what they could with what they had, and they used that to the strengths of and the benefit of the offense. But in that Oklahoma game, it was not a good game for Jalen. Yep. And I think it just got worse and worse as the time went on. Ty is a really, I think, just essentially adversity, like he can, and I'm having trouble saying this, he's really good at handling adversity. And I do think that this Alabama team is in a better spot if Oklahoma's defense makes plays or gets Alabama's offense into a bad spot where they're not going to throw in the towel. I think that kind of happened in that Oklahoma game to an extent where one bad thing happened after another and it just got worse and worse. And so I think Ty Simpson is much more built for if that happens again, because Oklahoma's defense seems really good again. And I do think that it's going to be fun to see Ty Simpson, who is playing at an incredibly high level. I mean, you talk to NFL folks who have seen a lot of good quarterbacks. They're really high on what Ty can do and just how clean his game is and just what he's been able to accomplish. And so how he does against Oklahoma's defense, to me, it has the potential for him still needing a Heisman moment. If he can somehow find a way to make a big play or a big drive or a game-winning drive against Oklahoma, that could be a season-defining moment for him.
I think the most amazing part about this entire Ty Simpson season has been something that I'm sure has been well documented in Tuscaloosa. We are well versed in it over in the Norman side of things. What the hell's going on with the run game right now with Alabama? They're coming off of their worst outing of the year, 2.2 yards per carry. I think it was 56 total yards. Is it an offensive line problem? Is it a running back problem? It's kind of incredible that Ty Simpson's had the year that he's had when you really haven't had to worry a whole lot about what Alabama has to offer in the run game.
Yeah, it's only gotten worse and worse every week. And to answer your question, yes, all of the above. I think that the running backs haven't been great at times. The blocking hasn't been great at times. There have been moments where 4 of the 5 guys block well, but one guy doesn't. And next thing you know, the play doesn't work. Guy gets blown up in the backfield. It just has not been there. And unfortunately, I don't think they have quite that running back right now that could maybe make something out of nothing type of deal. But just Jam Miller hasn't seemed to be as sharp as he maybe was at one point. And there just hasn't been an X factor type running back for them. And I think that's been a concern all the way back to fall camp, essentially, where there was no one that, I mean, Jam Miller, you heard them saying that he was it was Jam and everybody else. And Jam Miller's been struggling. So without Jam doing well, that puts them in a tough spot. So at this point, yeah, Alabama can't really count on its running game, but I don't know that it's going to be able to accomplish what it wants to without at least some threat or some efficient running. So we'll see if they can get back to it, just even a little bit of that.
Nick, on the flip side, the passing game has been one of the best in the country. And you look at some of the weapons. I know Oklahoma just faced a really good passing offense in Tennessee and what they do over there, and then also Ole Miss a couple weeks ago. And both those teams found some success against OU through the air. Who are some of the weapons? We know Ryan Williams, but who are some of the weapons that Oklahoma fans should know heading into this game?
Yeah, number one is Jeremy Bernard.
Yeah.
Ryan Williams is the more well-known receiver, but he's been banged up a little bit. He's had some issues with drops at points this season. Those seem to be getting better, but he has been banged up, so he hasn't been quite that superstar-level receiver that I think some fans expected him to be. But Jeremy Bernard, I mean, the guy is just so reliable. He makes plays. He will take carries at times. They'll get him the ball in the backfield. And downfield, he's got reliable hands, just a really good weapon there. So keep an eye on him, because I think if Oklahoma wants to have success, they're going to have to slow him down, frankly. And one thing to keep in mind, guys, I'm going to pivot just a little bit. I forgot to mention this before about Ty. He has actually, we found out this week, him and Arch Manning are pals. And Arch Manning has been giving him some pointers on facing Oklahoma. So something to watch, see if it helps or not. But him and Ty like to exchange tips about defenses they're facing, and vice versa. Ty, I think, has given Arch some tips on facing Georgia. So kind of an interesting dynamic there.
Well, and it's another story that we might have to follow up in the offseason, that it sounds like the Manning Passing Academy is basically just a way to get these guys together, and then they scheme against Oklahoma, which I think is kind of effed up. But neither here nor there. Flip side, Kane Womack's group on the defensive side of the ball, I think for the better part of the last 10, 15 years, you just look up Alabama, there's going to be 7 or 8 guys that end up getting drafted into the NFL. What's the situation with Kane Womack's group? Obviously been playing extremely well on that side of the football.
Yeah, they've improved. I mean, you look at that Florida State game, you talk about just rock bottom. I mean, the defense was timid on its heels, and those aren't my words. That's what Kane Womack was saying about that defense. And ever since then, I think they've been improving. And of late, I mean, this defense has shown flashes of some really pretty elite play. I mean, just guys playing fast. They're really good at getting turnovers and takeaways is what they would call them, not turnovers. The defense likes to call them takeaways at really important times. In the South Carolina game, that was so true, where Deontay Lawson got that strip late in the game to set up the offense to go win the game. Also against LSU, had a few takeaways that were really important in important times. So this defense capitalizes. I'm not saying this is a defense that just gives you nothing like the defenses of old, like you mentioned, Eddie, but I do think that it's a group that, frankly, is probably playing better than the offense right now. So you might argue it's the strength of the team at this moment.
Nick, what's maybe a weakness on that side of the ball? Where's maybe an area that you could see? I mean, this Oklahoma offense has obviously struggled, but they're coming off one of their better performances against Tennessee. Where's maybe a weakness that you think Oklahoma can maybe expose?
I would say the defensive line and the front in terms of maybe pass rush, or even, I mean, Deontay Pierre has been a guy who's been improving, and he's got 5 sacks in the last 3 games. But overall, the one thing that you haven't necessarily felt, okay, this is great, this is elite, it's kind of that front, and seeing how that defensive line holds up. The linebackers Alabama have done really well. Deontay Lawson, Nikai Hill-Green, Justin Jefferson, not the one in the NFL, but the linebacker version of Justin Jefferson. They've been a good group in the middle of the defense, but what it's looked like coming off the edge, rushing the passer and stuffing the run. That's been an issue at times. So it's been getting better, but I'm still not sold that it's locked down. So I think if you're going to have success, running the football tends to be the better avenue for it than passing against this defense.
We've talked about it quite a bit here on the back end of everything with special teams. Certainly just watching the LSU game last weekend. What's going on with Connor Talty? Just the confidence situation. 11 for 16, not the worst in the entire world, but you see him miss a kind of a chip shot last weekend. Where's the overall confidence level with Alabama in the place kicking standpoint, as well as everywhere else in the special teams department, punting, kick return, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, Alabama's communicating confidence in Connor Talty, but I think if you ask any Alabama fan how they feel about Connor Talty right now, it's not a ton of confidence. I think there's a lot of people saying, hey, this is back to the tough days of just not know what you're going to get from your kicker. Alabama was fortunate to have Will Reichard for a number of years, being a really good kicker, reliable, has a strong leg, all good things, but it's kind of back to well, it might make it, might not, kind of see what happens. So I think that it's a bit of a mystery, to be fair. And Talty can make good kicks. I mean, he can do what needs to be done at times, but it's a bit of we'll see what happens when he goes to kick a field goal at this point.
Nick, how long have you been covering Alabama?
This is year 5 for me.
Year 5. And the reason I ask, because you've covered some big games, some big atmospheres. We just got back from going to Knoxville, which I said is maybe the best college football atmosphere that I've seen, the dark mode game and all of that. I'm wondering, what kind of atmosphere should OU fans and this OU football team be prepared for? Because I would assume, I know it's a 2:30 kick. I'm sure Alabama fans wanted it to be a night game, but I would assume this is going to be, again, one of the best in college football.
Yeah, I will say, Bama fans, close your ears, but Neyland Stadium would probably be my number one in terms of road environment. I mean, it's suffocating. It really is. And granted, I've been there covering Alabama, but I've also been there covering Missouri games at Neyland Stadium. And obviously those were not as intense, but still just fantastic atmosphere. And the Vols Navy on the water there is pretty cool. So just a lot of great things in terms of SEC Stadium. But Bryant-Denny is pretty legit too. And when that place is rocking, it can be pretty intense. It's been kind of fascinating, the evolution of these fans just being used to winning and kind of just showing up for one big party and almost learning how to become fans of a team that's in these close games. I think that's been a little bit of an evolution because Bama fans, and they'll tell you that they've been spoiled for a long time. So it's maybe not the top environment in college football, but it certainly can be a really tough environment to play in and can be loud. And obviously it's just a very fun football venue. So I'll be curious to see what you guys think once you've been there.
It's going to be, I think, very exciting. Just in terms of like the Oklahoma Brigade that's coming in, it kind of feels the same as Knoxville, where there's a big contingent of Oklahoma fans headed down to Tuscaloosa this weekend. And for the Oklahoma side of things, it certainly feels like it's a playoff game. I know, just reading kind of the social media, and believe me, every fan base, it seems, has a level of toxicity that likes to focus on the negative. Where is the Alabama fan base right now? Is this a team that they believe can go win a national championship, get over the hump, or the hump that Kalen DeBoer, I guess, has been presented with over the first year and a half since he's taken over?
Yeah, I think there's some optimism. I don't know that people are buying just yet that this is a national championship team.
Sure.
Mainly because of the running game. I think a lot of people are worried about that and don't quite feel confident enough to say this team can go all the way without that. So I think there's some cautious optimism, but let's just say it's in a much better spot than it was back in the beginning of September, just because I think fans know that Kalen DeBoer can win big games. Him beating South Carolina was huge because that was a game that they were supposed to win, and those games have often been trickier. The kind of the joke is that, frankly, Alabama fans would probably prefer if every game was ranked or maybe even Kalen should just go put numbers by every single opponent so that the players think it's a ranked game, because Alabama does really well in those games. So that to me, I think a lot of Alabama fans right now are more worried about the game at Auburn than they are this Oklahoma game, mainly because this is a ranked matchup. It's going to be a good game, whereas Auburn obviously will not be ranked at that point. And, of course, scary things happen at Jordan and Hare for Alabama fans.
Nick, last one before we get you out of here. What's a couple places, things to do for some of the fans that are maybe making this trip?
Yeah, there are some of the classic spots. So there's Ramajamas is a really just Alabama football kind of place to eat right next to the stadium. I mean, it's literally right across you can walk 5 steps and it'll get you there from Bryant-Denny Stadium. That place is decked out in Alabama stuff. The Waysiders, where Bear Bryant used to, I believe, go eat breakfast. A good place there to get some biscuits and just some good Southern cooking that way. It's kind of more of a breakfast spot, maybe more so than a dinner later in the day kind of spot. But I'm trying to think what else would be good. But those are a couple of the more iconic and historic places that the fans should definitely check out.
George wants to take us on the tour of the sorority rush TikTok. He was there. Nobody covered it more than he did back in the beginning of August, but it's going to be fun. It seems like a massive game for both sides, and looking forward to it. He is Nick Kelly with AL.com. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Hey, great to be with you guys. Should be a fun one.
Thanks, Nick.
Appreciate it. Take a quick time out from the Game Day Preview to tell you about our good friends over at Huel. And we've done so before, but the Black Edition powder combined with the shaker, as you see here, very, very simple to use in the mornings of chaos at my home, trying to race out of the door to get to a 6 a.m. radio show that I usually show up at 6:15 for. Neither here nor there. All you got to do is throw the Black Edition powder in, 35 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, 27 essential vitamins and minerals, no added sugar, gluten-free, under $5 per meal. You can have that delivered straight to your door. Huel.com/SooterScoop. The Stoya family has turned to the greens.
Yeah, my wife is a huge fan. I like these two, the Daily Greens. They've got all sorts of different flavors. This one's the peach and hibiscus. I think my wife, she likes the apple and mint, I think is what it is. It's really good.
Apple and cucumber, huh?
Apple and cucumber. But 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods, super greens. Lion's mane mushroom, 4 grams of fiber, electrolytes. So I know Aaron loves drinking these things in the morning.
Got to get that Lion's Mane every morning. Huel makes healthy eating simple. They also launched into Target stores nationwide. Try both products today with 15% off your purchase for new customers with the exclusive code SooterScoop, as you see there on the screen. Huel.com/SooterScoop. Thank you to our good friends over at Huel. We also must tell you about our good friends over at Harry's. We've told you about them before, but they have right now, as George grabs his little case, he has a clean face today, and it's because of the fine people over at Harry's. Harry's Plus, the Harry's Plus Razor Trial Set. You can get it today for $10. All you got to do is go to harrys.com/SooterScoop. This set, what does it include, Eddie? Let me tell you. The all-new Harry's Plus Razor, 1 refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Will you be taking that with us to Tuscaloosa?
Of course. I love this one. This razor is awesome. It's like heavier, and it's also it's made of nicer material, but that's a heck of a deal. You get all of that in the bag for $10. So.
Yeah, not bad at all. All you got to do is go to harrys.com/SooterScoop. All of your bathroom needs right there with our good friends over at Harry's. And once again, it is harrys.com/SooterScoop. $10. Not a bad deal. Go claim it today. Much cheaper with the promo code SooterScoop. Thank you to our good friends over at Harry's. And now back to the Game Day Preview. Always good to catch up with the Nick. I'm really excited about getting down to Tuscaloosa on Saturday to see him. Don't think that we've seen him since the SEC Media Day. So always good to catch up with him. And certainly it's been a night and day difference here with, obviously where Alabama was, as we were talking about with Nick. Where they were coming out of week 1, everybody was going to be fired, and all of a sudden, it seems like Alabama's kind of sort of back to being what Alabama is. I don't know if, without Nick Saban over on the sidelines, maybe that mystique is gone a little bit, but certainly a really, really good football team. Yeah,
and I thought it was interesting. Nick talked about kind of the fans readjusting their mindset. I think a lot of college football fans have to do that, but especially Alabama, like you said, Nick Saban's not over there anymore, and the landscape's changing. The playing field has become more level, and so. But I still think Alabama is Alabama. They get a lot of really good players, very talented team, maybe one of, if not the most talented team in the country. So it's a huge test for Oklahoma.
No doubt about it. Let's highlight a couple players before we get out of here in the Game Day Preview. And let's start with Kaden Helms. Kind of fascinating story here. And I think a lot of people that tried to hold on to the stock as long as possible, and then he gets hurt at the beginning of the season yet again, it was like, damn it, I just want this kid to have a chance, have an opportunity. It certainly seems like as the Oklahoma run game has come together over the last couple of weeks, some tight end play has been a part of that, and Kaden Helms has kind of led that charge.
Yeah, and he's a really good story, like you said. He's overcome a lot of injuries. He's been a guy that I think a lot of people probably thought maybe would enter the transfer portal, look for a different type of opportunity, but he stuck it out, and Oklahoma is using him a lot right now. They're certainly glad that he's stuck with it because I think we talked about the run game earlier. And I think Kaden Helms has been a big part of that. It was a few weeks ago they were saying take all the tight ends off the field. Now I'm kind of like, hey, when Kaden Helms is on the field,
they or we?
Yeah, I think everybody. But I think that when Caden's on the field now, it's like you feel kind of confident that he's going to get the job done. And it's not always perfect, and I think he's still learning. And he didn't really wasn't known to be a blocking guy coming out of high school, but. He's shown that ability, and I think that right now, Kanic's still, I think, a really good weapon in the passing game, but in terms of an overall tight end, I think Kaden Helms is kind of their best guy. Obviously, he's been in the program a long time. I think it means a lot to him, and he's kind of become a leader with that group, too.
Stop down with a little bit more from Kaden Helms, as well as Oklahoma offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle, talking about what he's seen from a development standpoint with the, I guess we'll call him veteran tight end.
No, it definitely feels good. I said this before, but, out of high school, obviously no one expects to, go along the path I did. But, God had a plan for me, and, I'm finally starting to, see what that plan was. And it's been good to get, a couple game stretch going, kind of get my feet under me a little bit, kind of start to get in a rhythm a little bit. That's something, I haven't been able to do really since I've been in college, just kind of get a rhythm, and I think it's starting to pay off. So I'm excited.
I mean, he's an older guy. I know he's battled through some injuries and stuff, but he's an older guy. He's practiced a lot of football, so he comes with a great maturity about him to what practice is, and he brings it every day in practice. I mean, he's constantly being physical, going as hard as he can, straining through the echo of the whistle, and that stuff translates to game day, and that stuff helps the run game. Way back when, like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, whenever I was getting asked about the run game, and I said it's not just the O-line, it's everybody. I mean, that's a prime example of how it's everybody. Kaden Helms and Carson Kent and Jaron Kanik, they're all the same way, but we had to get better at it, and we had to get better at those three things that I just mentioned: straining through the whistle, being physical, being violent, and doing that at practice and taking it to the game, and Kaden exemplifies that. He's come in since his hand got better, been a willing practice guy out there, really been almost a standard of what you need to be at practice, and I think it's translated to game day really well, and I'm really proud of him. I'm just proud of the football that he's playing and the amount of football he's getting to play, because I know that means a lot to him just because he's been hurt a lot throughout his career, so it's just really fun to see for him.
Yeah, I mean, really words can't even describe. I've definitely had some rough moments here injury-wise, and it really kind of messed with my mental a little bit, my first couple years here. But the more I kind of started to lean on God and lean on my faith, I kind of just took it as kind of a lesson and not really a setback, kind of just something that is a part of my journey, and scarred me up in the good ways that it needs to, and I feel like I'm a better person because of it.
How have you maybe taken on a leadership role in that tight end room, being a guy that has been through some stuff and has obviously been here a while now?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously being a tight end, I'm the most, what's the word, I guess, experienced in that room. Jaron was obviously, we're in the same class, but he wasn't a tight end this whole time here. And Will Huggins is a class above me, but he hasn't been here the whole time. So just being able to help the guys with, Oklahoma-specific stuff, kind of getting settled in, and what the coaches here want, what the strength staff wants, stuff like that. I'm always happy to help my guys out, and it's probably one of the closest tight end groups we've had since I've been here, and I think that's helped us out a lot. Just being able to lean on each other in whatever ways we need to.
Catching passes is one thing, but the other aspect of the tight end's role is serving as an extra blocker during the run game, potentially even a pass protector.
Yeah.
Seems like that's an area of your game that you take a lot of pride in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, out of high school, I was pretty much a glorified receiver. I didn't really play tight end at all in high school, and then coming over here, obviously, my injury and stuff, kind of limited me early on in the past game, so it really forced me to kind of get my technique and stuff down in the run game. I think that's just another, cool way that, God's kind of taken my story and, allowed me to benefit from it, so it's good.
What mentality goes into being an effective run blocker as a tight end?
Coach Finley says all the time, just win with your man, or, if you're on the goal line, score with your man. Don't let your man make the tackle, and I think that's a mindset that all of us have kind of tried to take on, and you got to not just be physical, but you got to be violent, and just go out in each and every play with a violent mindset.
Perhaps that can be another nice development for Oklahoma offensively moving forward here over the next 3 games to close out the regular season. Another guy, just in terms of, do you have anything else to say on?
No,
Kaden Helms?
just a cool story.
Yeah, it's an awesome story. You hope that maybe
him.
he could be another asset in the passing game.
Yeah.
Certainly hasn't been, just a complete big target for John Mateer, but certainly I think he could be a nice outlet. I've always thought that the tight end could be a nice outlet, just like we saw Jaren Kanak at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and I think Kaden has another year, I want to say, because he's redshirted.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly, and I know Oklahoma's going to be busy in the transfer portal at tight end, but he's a guy that I don't think it'd be a bad thing to just bring him back as a veteran presence, and a guy that, if he can stay healthy, he's shown that he can help and can contribute.
It was good to catch up with him, just because I think, too, that, a lot of times for the tight end room especially, it's not always the easiest thing to have to come in and answer questions about why they haven't been better. This is kind of like one of those moments like, okay, everybody can breathe a little bit. There is some positive there with the tight end unit. On the flip side of that, you have somebody like a David Stone that has been exceptional every time that he's come in and talked with us. I wanted to throw this in today because I think that there's a little bit more from David Stone that people they gravitate towards, they love, and I think especially just being an Oklahoma kid, it means something to him.
Yeah, it means a lot to him, and he's somebody that obviously has grown a lot as a player this last year. I mean, last year he really wasn't playing a ton for Oklahoma, and this year he's become arguably one of their best defensive players, and he just gets better and better, and it's really cool too because he is from Oklahoma. I know he went to IMG Academy for, was it 2 years or 3 years?
I think it was basically just his 1 year, his senior year.
Okay, 1 year.
Or no, it might have been 2 years. I think in junior and senior year.
But he's got that Oklahoma blood in him, and certainly a guy that takes a lot of pride in that. And there's been a lot of really good in-state kids to come through Oklahoma, but it looks like David Stone's going to be, end up being one of the best.
Yeah, I think certainly one of those homegrown guys that, unlike Brent Key, don't have to cut him open to see what kind of blood he has.
Yeah.
Here's a little bit more from David Stone on Monday night. I know that if you watch the pregame, you see him running out with the Oklahoma flag. He talks a little bit about that, as well as the challenge of going on the road this weekend.
It doesn't matter. That's the biggest thing. Like, for me specifically, I black out the crowd noise. It doesn't. Of course, it is good to have it there for their environment, but man, I'm so worried about the call and my job. I don't hear the noise. I'm getting my signal, handing the dirt, processing my job, my responsibility, communicating my job with my brother, and it's time to go from there. I mean, in a way, it's a blessing because when we're in away games, it's quiet for us. We can communicate at a high level. But for the offense, they're rowdy on third downs, it's loud. I'm not out there, so. But man, like when it's time to go, it's time to go. And whether it's a home game, away game, practice field, indoor facility, I'm the same way every time. It meant a lot, During the summer, we're out there practicing on the grass field by the track field. So, I'm looking up every day and looking at the stadium as I'm running, and we're in the indoor working out. I'm seeing all the banners across the facility, and it just brings another level of competitiveness out of you. You're playing for something bigger than yourself. In the moment, you might feel like, oh, this shit's tough, whatever the case may be. But those same guys who've been in the same spot that you want to be, they've been doing the same thing at a higher level, and they've been working their ass off for it. And the blood, sweat, and tears are on this campus, in the facilities that you've been across the locker room. You got to live up to that standard regardless of where you come from. And that's something that I've been trying to keep and uphold across the board with every guy that I practice with today.
maybe not the most PC in the entire world, but I certainly think like he's very real. David Stone is very real, and I love the way that he talks.
I got a little trivia for you.
Okay.
Can you tell me the last OU player from the state of Oklahoma that was drafted?
That was drafted? Great question to just spur on me like
And I got
this.
a second trivia question for you after that.
Okay. Yeah, I carried in the headset to Trey Brown. The first name that came to mind for me was Creed Humphrey.
It is Isaiah Thomas.
Isaiah Thomas.
Friend
IT.
of the program.
Friend of the program. How could we do that to you, IT?
Second one. Last OU football player from the state of Oklahoma that was drafted in the first round, because I think David Stone has a chance to go in the first round.
100%. I would agree with that. First round, just working my way back. Yeah, is it GK and Sam?
Yeah, Gerald McCoy and Sam Bradford.
Damn near 16 years ago.
Yeah.
Or I guess it would technically be 15 years.
Yeah, so
that's crazy.
It is crazy, and hopefully David can get there. He's certainly somebody you
well
want to
on
root
his
for.
way, I would say.
But the way his trajectory right now, I think he can be a first round pick, and it'd be pretty cool too with Gerald McCoy and the relationship he has with David Stone. If David could end up being the next guy from the state of Oklahoma.
Definitely would feel like that's kind of like full circle.
Yeah.
In terms of, in the way that Gerald McCoy played a helping hand in kind of mentoring David Stone here over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and even, when he entered the portal, I think Gerald McCoy played a part in that in making sure that he didn't, came back and didn't actually enter the portal. So
those 48 hours, and he talked about it on the Family Business. Certainly, those 48 hours, just a blip in the David Stone story, if you will.
Yep.
All right, thank you to Nick Kelly for joining us. I know that we tried to get Kylan Darnell, the queen of Rush Talk, but George was unable to book that.
Maybe
we'll
next
work
time.
on it. Maybe if OU and Alabama are to play for a national title or in the college football playoff at some
We'll
point.
do it. We'll get it.
I don't
We'll
know
get
how
her on.
that would work. We'll maybe track her down on Saturday as well when we're in Tuscaloosa without getting any type of restraining order. For George Stoya, Eddie Radosevich will be back here on Friday for another Around the Quarter. We're going to pre-tape that while we're traveling out to Alabama/Birmingham, where I think a lot of Oklahoma fans are going to be this weekend.
Yep.
Should be quite the scene from Bryant-Denny Stadium. All right, we will talk to you next time right here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.